as far as what is it I'm thinking, how we introduce that blue or that purple into the color scheme. You know, we can do glazes with inks. We can actually tint the gray color a little bit with the purple or the blue. But the bottom line is we just want to try and give it just a little bit of color so it's not totally flat or bland.
Yeah, no, flat gray.
Right.
I'm interested to see what both look like because I was thinking of using a different skin tone to tell the difference between multiple units.
Okay.
So if they both look good, it would just be which I pick to do like the main line, I guess.
Okay.
And the off one would just be. Hold on, I think people are saying they have no sound.
My mic's working on this end.
And you hear me just fine.
And I'm hearing you just fine. It might be a delay in Twitch or a glitch in Twitch. Give the delay a second and see if these guys can hear. So
Okay.
usually it takes about 30-40 seconds for that to kick in. So that's the thing with Twitch TV, man. And there was sound. We got sound now. There we go. So we're good. So what I want to do, the first option I kind of want to play with on the palette here is going to work with Troll Blood Highlight and then Rin Flesh, okay? And this is going to be just to kind of make kind of your generic overall skin tone. And what I'm going to do here is about a 1-to-1 ratio of the two colors. And that white is really, there we go, that's a little better. All right, so I want to just kind of mix these up for a second here. And you can see that's already kind of giving you a pinkish, I don't know, grayish kind of fleshy color there. Nothing that's really too, I don't know, shocking one way or the other.
Yeah.
But then if we maybe introduce a little bit of frostbite into it, which is just a touch of blue. That's kind of where I was going with this. So there's a gray more or less that might work for you. It's got a little bit of that blue hue to it. It's kind of hard for it to pick up on the camera. I'm going to add a touch of Menoth White base, or Menoth White highlight, and then I'm going to also add a touch of Signar Blue highlight. But I'm going to put this drop off to the side so I can control how much of that comes in.
That's what I was thinking.
Is that what you're liking right there?
Yes, because that Signar Blue in it. That's what I was looking
Okay. So yeah, that's definitely giving you that more pale skin tone color. So that was approximately 1-to-1 Troll Blood Highlight, Rin Flesh, Frostbite, and then also Menoth White Highlight. So just one drop of each of those colors, and then probably about a half a drop of the Signar Blue Highlight. So that's where you got that. That's almost real similar to Troll Blood Highlight, our Troll Blood base. The Troll Blood base is a bit darker. So when you get this back on your part of town there, you might want to play also with a little bit of the Troll Blood base and see if that
it's comparable.
How that compares, and that might even be a good shadow color for you to use.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So let's see here. How are we gonna shade that color? I think we got to shade that color with a little bit of sanguine.
Okay.
Introduce just a little bit of warmth to that color.
Is it sanguine highlight or is sanguine a separate color?
Sanguine base. I'm sorry. They do have sanguine highlight. Yeah, this is sanguine base.
I bought the wrong color. Oh well.
Sanguine highlight is a magenta color.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Yeah.
I figured it may have been the camera or something, but I'm not sweating it. Because the store only had highlight, and I figured maybe it was something, but I can just order it offline.
Okay. So there's what your sanguine base looks like mixed in just a little bit there. Starting to give you a little bit of a shadow color. Warms it up a touch. You would probably want to use that shadow color fairly sparingly. Yeah. You know, thinly glazed on so that way you're not overdoing the that gray muted color. You know, you don't want to have too much color going on in this. And then as far as your highlight goes, you could probably get away with just straight frostbite, I would imagine, maybe with a little bit of Menoth white highlight in it. Let's see how that looks. And you'll get this card too when I'm done, along with some nicer ones that are a little bit more refined as far as what the colors look like. So, I mean, you can kind of see where that's going. Is that too blue, or do you want to try to whiten that up even a little bit more?
That's actually what I was thinking, 100%.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I like it.
And this wasn't scripted beforehand, folks.
No, I promise. Because in all honesty, what a lot of the reference for my Cryx undead scheme was going to be was I got to look at Tom Guan's army in person.
Ah, okay.
And his is really kind of muted, where it's like a dark blue armor and then kind of that color as the skin.
Okay.
And then a green glow, so it's kind of very soft.
Okay.
But I really did like the blue armor, blue skin. But I felt the blue skin would work well with the purple armor we're doing anyway.
I kind of like how this looks, the Menoth white highlight with a touch of frostbite in it as a highlight color right in here.
Looking at it on the camera, that all kind of looks like one thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like from the left on, it kind of looks like one thing.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can see it now when you added a bit more there. That
Yeah.
looks good.
Yeah, so that might be where we want to go highlight-wise on that one. So, okay. Now, do you want to, I know you got your movie to head to, so do you want to stick around while I airbrush this coat onto her skin, or are you going to take off?
I can stay for that.
Okay. So let me get her right here. I've got my airbrush ready to go. Let me mix up some of the color here. We were doing pretty much a 1-to-1 on all that. I saw a amusing post on Facebook today about the new Avengers movie, and
What did they say?
well, it was a call between Nick Fury and Captain America, and they were explaining why Hawkeye isn't a good fit for the Avengers anymore. Like, you know, basically like why they want to fire him.
Oh, I think I've seen. I think they've done those before with the other characters too.
Yeah, yeah.
If you find that funny, Saturday Night Live did a great skit.
Oh yeah.
The Avengers, and it's like the way they portray Hawkeye was really funny, where he kind of just taps out after using all his arrows, and they're like, "How many did you bring?" And he's like, 20? And they're like, "That's it?" And he goes, "You got 20 less guys to deal with," and he just walks off set.
That's pretty funny. I was on YouTube the other night, and you know what it's like when you're on there late and you're just like browsing through stuff, and then you hit like a gold mine thread kind of thing, you know. And there was this one. It was the X-Men, but it was like the X-Men like EX-Men, you know, as in like they'd been fired kind of thing. And so it's like basically Professor Xavier firing all the X-Men for, you know, all these crap reasons and stuff. It was pretty good.
I think that's exactly what I'm thinking of, not with Nick Fury. I think that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty funny. The one with Wolverine was pretty funny, and it was kind of the same thing of you know. So you have really big claws, you know. So what? So I'm just mixing this color up real quick off camera in my airbrush here before we airbrush it onto Denegra. And I did do, I assembled her and did her zenithal highlighting last night. So she's all ready to go, and the primer's had enough time to dry. And it's looking a little more blue than it did on the card, but I think it will still be. I think it'll still be okay. We'll give it a shot, and then I can adjust it with the paintbrush if I need to. And we'll just do a little bit of airbrushing now on this skin. A second here. There we go. Now, small figures like this, they're not really going to need a lot of color on them because they're so small. I mean, it's just, you know, there's nothing to them. In fact, the skin on her is going to be just really quick and easy to do.
Is her back cloak not on?
I left it off for painting purposes.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
wondering. Because I know there are people that take it off, and I was wondering if at any point I said that.
Yeah, do you want it off, left off of her, or?
No, I'd like it on.
Okay, okay. All right, I think that's about as far as we need to go there. You can see, let me zoom in a little bit on this, set my airbrush down.
Yeah, that looks good. I see it. I can see it. Kind
Yeah.
of. It's like it's hard to see on the camera, but I can see the color difference.
Yeah.
So.
And I think once I start working some of the shadows in there, you'll see it a lot more.
Yeah, a bit
Yeah,
better.
yeah. So in fact,
So you chose to airbrush the skin first over the armor. Was that strictly because of the tutorial, or is that how you actually do it?
no, that's how I would really do it. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't. It's just that's how I paint. It's easier for me to work that way.
Okay.
You know, especially on something so small like this, like when you start painting your infantry, you know, your army. On the bigger models like the Banes and stuff like that, you could probably get away with like masking stuff or just not assembling it all the way, you know, and airbrushing like pieces of it and stuff. But me personally, I find that it's easier for me to paint armor than it is for me to paint skin tones. So I'll definitely make sure I get that nice smooth skin tone first with my airbrush and then paint the armor later. So
Because for my Banes, all I did really was, once I started redoing them, was I did their little cloth-like things the same way you did a 6ES, and then just masked it off and then did the metal, and then just started picking out highlights.
okay, I see what you're saying. So I'm just adding a little bit of shadow here on her thigh, just to introduce some of this color onto there so you can see it before you take off.
Yeah, I can see that.
So and there you can start to see how that shadow is going to build up now.
Exactly, and then the highlight you'll put on later because that's not on yet, right?
Right. Yeah. That'll you know, once this dries a bit more,
Yeah.
that highlight will get added on there.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. And then I'll take care of Asphyxius right now when you get off air, and then we'll see you in a few days when I talk to you about when we want to get on next for Death Jack.
Awesome, man. Take it easy.
You bet. Take care, Eric.
See ya.
For those of you in chat room, I'm not finishing up for the night. That was just Eric. He was only able to be on for a short period of time tonight. So hang tight for a second, guys. I'm just going to end this Google call and bring my camera up here onto that, and we're good to go. And we are still painting. We're still streaming, and we're still getting it done here. So fantastic. I'm glad that didn't have any glitches with it. So Eric, you're going to catch this part of the broadcast later on after you're recovering from seeing such an epic movie like Avengers. So what I want to talk about with you real quick is cleaning up Asphyxius's cloak here. Okay, part of the problem that you run into when you airbrush is sometimes the shadows and the highlights can look a little unrefined or a little too broad. A good example is right here on the tip of his cloak. If you look closely, you can actually see that the highlight stops, and there's still a tip of the cloak there that is needing to be highlighted, that got missed, and that's just because of the masking fluid that I was using. So the idea is we want to go back in now with a brush and reapply that highlight and clean that up and just push these highlights just a little bit further and give us just a little bit more contrast on the overall cloak there. For those of you in chat, though, feel free to drop your questions and ask them if you got them. And since I don't have Eric live with me right now, I'll be looking at chat a little more often and can ask your questions as you have them. Also, just for those of you that are sticking around tonight for the broadcast, once I'm done with Asphyxius and working a little bit more on Denegra, I'm going to be pulling out the Signar Charger that I was working on the other day and talking about creating true metallic metal effects using a two-brush blending technique. So for those of you that are interested in that, make sure you stick around. I'm just setting up my wet palette here. Now for these highlights, Eric, what we had used originally was Warlord Purple from Vallejo Game Color. So that's the color we're going to use for the highlights. What I recommend is putting it on your wet palette and thinning it out just a little bit. Okay, you don't want it super thin because you still want to be able to retain coverage, and Warlord Purple is a little bit doesn't have the best coverage when it starts to thin out, but also don't keep it completely thick either. You just want to have enough coverage so that you can slowly glaze and build up the color on the edge of the highlight. So I've just got my wet palette here. I'm just mixing up a little bit of the color. And to demonstrate on my hand how thick that paint is, how thin that paint is, you can see. Okay. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to work on recapturing some of these highlights. And Warlord Purple is a tricky color. I've been using it a lot on the Cephalix army that I'm working on. And when you apply it wet, it looks a lot more intense than how it actually dries, which is kind of an interesting, it makes painting with this color interesting because you're never fully sure what kind of final effect you're going to have. It's definitely a little tricky in that respect. All right, you can already see how that's building up. Okay, we're going to work a little more down here. And at this point, you're kind of using the zenithal highlighting that you created originally with your airbrush as kind of a map for where you're going to place these highlights. And if you get a hard edge with the paint like that, just give your brush a little lick with the tongue or a little wipe across a damp paper towel just to thin out what's on your brush a little bit, and then you can work on kind of softening that edge a little bit there. Okay. And we'll just keep working some of these highlights here. And then if we want to, also Eric, what else we could do just to push these highlights just a little bit further, and maybe I'll do it on one or two just to kind of give you an idea, is adding a little bit of Menoth White highlight to the purple color here, the highlight color here, what is it, Lich Warlord Purple, and that'll just push the highlights just a little bit further. You don't need to do a lot on this, you're just more or less cleaning it up and refining it a little bit. You ideally would have done most of your work with the airbrush at this point if you're painting this way. See, this back area right here is a really good candidate too for some of this highlighting. A little bit of it got missed with the airbrush. Okay. All right, and you can see already, particularly right in here, how much more that cleans things up. Cleans things up isn't the right word. How much more contrast it provides, creating more visual interest in the model. Let me just add a touch of the Menoth White highlight to the purple so that you can see what it would look like if we just pushed this highlight just a little bit further. And there's how thin you want it. This you're going to want to keep fairly thin and fairly close to this highlighted edge here. You can see how that's affecting it as I'm pushing it out further. Probably a good spot would be right down in here too. So you see how that looks. You see how that's going. It's looking pretty good. Want to talk about real quick, though, I did mention earlier that one of the things that I did after our last cast, after doing all these OSL effects here, was I went back in and I cleaned things up just a little bit more. And let me zoom in to show you what I'm talking about, Eric. I'm talking about right here along the edge of the ribs there. There you go, that's better. I added a little bit of the base silver color back in and just kind of thinly glazed that on because I felt like I had overpowered it a little too much with the OSL effects. And so I wanted to recapture some of that metallic look. So I went ahead and brought some of that back in there and cleaned that up a little bit more. And of course, when you pull back out and look away, look further away at it, it definitely looks better, I think, than last time. And now our final highlight has dried too, so you can see how that looks. It's a lot better. Looks a lot cleaner, I think. A little more contrast. So as far as where he goes from here, he's going to get a wash with Secret Weapon Miniatures Armor Wash. And then I will pick out all the golds on him as well. And also I want to do the eye. So we probably got one more paint cast with this guy, and he'll be done. And Denegra, she'll be done here pretty quick, and then we can move on to Death Jack. So let me, speaking of Denegra, let me come back to her. And take a closer look at her here and try and figure out on her what is skin and what is armor, because it is a little hard to tell. Okay. Looking at the chat here real quick, there's a couple questions up there. Let's see here. Drolath is asking, any chance sometime tonight you could talk about how to paint ropes, specifically the tiny ropes like what you would see on the Wold Guardian. I'm trying to think if I've got anything on my desk right now that has ropes on it that I could show that to you on. Basically what I do is I wash it and then I highlight it. And I know that's not very specific, but I will that's something I will cover on a future cast for you, because you're not the only one who's asked that question. I've had a couple people actually ask that question, so I want to make sure that that gets answered. So I'll cover that in a future paint cast. So just hang tight on that one. And then Tad goes asking, when you get a chance, how were you using leather brown a cast or two ago? Tadgo, I'm going to need you to be a little more specific on that. That's a little vague, so if you could give me a little bit more information there, I could give you a little bit more information back. So I'm not sure if you're talking about creating a leather brown effect, or if you're talking about the actual Vallejo color leather brown, and even how I was using it. To be honest, I'd have to think on that for a minute. So I'm just going to add some more shadow color here into Denegra and make sure I'm in focus on this one. So what I've done for painting the shadows is I've just created a really thin wash of the sanguine base color, and I'm just kind of running it along the edges where there would be shadow on her. Trying to keep in mind where the points would be that would be in shadow on her. I'm not going to worry too much about this back area here because that's all going to be covered by her cloak. Yeah, I agree. This model needs a resculpt really bad because it's not very well done. to be honest. So, kind of working on this chest area here. Gosh, this is going to be odd. Talking about women's breasts on a paint cast. When you're painting the bust area, the female bust area, you have to think about each breast as its own orb or its own sphere. Okay, so if you look at a woman's chest, and I got to keep this family friendly. We're a family friendly paint cast here, so I've got to keep it friendly. So when you're looking at a woman's breast, think about it like a ball. Okay, the highest highlight of that area is going to be at the top of the breast. As the breast then moves forward, rounding down towards you, it's going to get into shadow, and then from that point of highlight on the top of the breast as it rolls back towards the body, it's going to be in shadow. So thinking about like where the collarbone is on, again, thinking about a woman's bust area, thinking about where the collarbone is, as you move from like the collarbone down the chest to where the breast would start, you would be getting more into shadow, and then the breast would start getting more into highlight, and then as the breast goes back down towards the bottom, you'd be back into shadow again. I hope that makes sense, because that's the effect that we're going to try and create here on De Negra. So that the top of the breasts are bright, are highlighted, but as it moves forward, it shadows, but also as it moves back towards the body, it shadows as well too. So I'm just adding some of the shadow back up here near the collarbone area. And it's really tight back up in here. Yeah, if you want to do research on that topic, guys, you're on your own. You're not going to find that kind of research on this show, sorry. Although I will tell you a funny story. When I was doing research of how to stream live video prior to starting this PaintCast, I ended up on some pretty interesting places on the internet, and had my wife walked in while I was on those websites looking, I'm sure I would have gotten quite a bit of flack for what was being viewed, because let me tell you, when you default search that topic, you're going to get some interesting pages. All right, I need to reclaim a little bit of that base coat, a little more. So let me get my color ready here. The base color ready. In fact, I've even got a little bit left in my airbrush cup, which I need to remember to clean out tonight. I don't want to leave it sitting here. Okay, you guys can see how that's coming along there. Get some of the highlight color mixed up here. And probably what will happen too is once I'm done painting all the armor, and I see how the final color of the armor affects the color of the skin, I may go in and change things up a little bit more, add a little more highlight in, add a little more shadow in, kind of create a mid-tone and add that in. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. So what we're talking about right now is just kind of starting with the just kind of the basics, you know. And there's my highlight color. Okay. Okay. I'm going to let that dry for just a minute and switch over here to some metallic colors for a second. I'm going to do some P3 pig iron. And I want to paint the corset that she's wearing, because that'll really help give me an idea of kind of where this skin tone color is going to go after doing all the armor effects. And I'm pretty sure her stomach is bare on this model, so I'm not going to put any metal base coat right there yet until I can confirm that's supposed to be bare stomach on her, on this model. Maybe if someone in chat knows that, they can confirm that one way or the other. Tell you too, guys, purple is the color right now. I've got 3 or 4 models coming up for PaintCast that are all purple. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck? Do people like purple that much, or is purple that difficult to paint? I don't know what the correlation is there, but it's interesting nonetheless. Yeah, I think this model really could look amazing with a proper resculpt. Bare stomach, yep, she's supposed to have a bare stomach. So let me add just a little bit of, start with a little bit of shadow in there. Oh yeah, look at that, she's got looks like her stomach's been stitched together. Oh, that's right. She's the Warcaster who got like chopped in half or something like that, right? I think I remember hearing something about that. Okay. You guys can see how that's coming along. Work on the face here for a minute. Start with the shadow color. is going to be challenging to paint her face without making her look like a frog. Because this mask, gotta go. And also, you know, being a female character, I want to try and keep the contrast fairly minimal, so that way it adds to that overall soft appearance. And I'm going to mix up just a little bit more here. Bring those details out there. Okay. And then for some highlights now. I'm taking a little bit of the base color and mixing it with a little bit of the highlight color, giving me about a 50-50 color. And again, I'm pretty thin there, like you can see on my thumb. And I'm going to draw this down her chin line here, stopping at the chin, because I want to start building up that highlight slowly, Eric. And I'm just going to do 2 or 3 coats of that, and then we'll jump straight to the highlight color and refine that chin just a little bit more. Again, I'm just pulling along the jawline towards the chin and stopping at the chin. And you're not on air with me, Eric, so I can't ask you this question, so I'm probably going to make an executive decision here and paint her helmet, at least this facial part right here, the purple color from the base color for your army. All right. Gonna mix up a little bit more of the shadow here. Thin it out just a little bit. A little bit under the lip there, the lower lip. Okay. Looks like we got 14 people on tonight. That's great, guys. Thanks for everyone for showing up, man. Sometimes I wonder how many people we actually got online, because sometimes chat gets pretty quiet. So hope everyone gets something out of these. Okay, and then let me mix up some of the base purple color to base coat some of these areas on the model. What I'm going to do, Eric, is what we did last time on the Asphyxius. The shadow color was a mixture of coal black, beaten purple, and sanguine base. With the base coat of the actual model being hexed lichen from Vallejo Game Color. I'm still going to do the same thing, the same base color, hexed lichen, and we're going to do the same shadow color as well. Actually, you know what? Let me think about this for a second, because she's got some pretty fine details, and we don't want to we don't want to cover those up too much in shadow. Let's try a base coat with a 1-to-1 mix of your highlight and your base. So 1-to-1 Hexed Lichen Warlord Purple. And we'll shade it down as needed, but I think it would be better to start more bright on her. Let's go 2-to-1. 2-to-1 Warlord Purple Hexed Lichen. That should give us a nice, yeah, that gives us a nice purple color there. Okay, so we're going to paint, like I said, we'll start with this part of the mask here. And we'll bring it up to the eyebrows. And there will be some purple OSL that we'll put on here, or excuse me, some green OSL that we'll put on here. This should draw some nice attention right to her face, which is cool. Alright, and then let's see what else needs to be purple on her. Her leggings here, let's see how far that goes into some leather there. So we'll start here. I know there's some tears in these leggings of hers, and I'll go back and recapture those after the purple's done. I'm not going to try and work around that right now. I think I'll turn my air compressor off too, because I don't think I'm going to be going back to that right now. Okay. Right. Don't see any other flesh areas on her. And this arm here, I think, is armor. And this arm here, those look like, yeah, she looks like she's got armor plate on her arms there. So I'm just going to focus on smoothing out this coat a little bit more. Okay, you can start to see how the model's coming together now, and how that blue pale skin tone is starting to take effect. And seeing how that looks, I want to actually add, let's try augmenting that shadow color just a little bit more. Instead of going straight sanguine base, let's add just a touch of the Signar Blue highlight to it, giving us a rather dark blue. Let me show you on the card here. Give us something that looks about like this. Very, very, very dark purple. Okay. And I want to just lightly glaze that into the shadow the shadows that we've already established, just to give a little bit more contrast to what we're working on here. Think back to what I was just saying earlier about once you start putting all these colors together, you start it starts changing the overall look, and so you've got to kind of adjust things a little bit on the fly. Okay. Looks like she's got a headdress here too that we're going to want to do in purple as well. And then maybe some hair locks that are coming out from underneath it. So let's get that going. Let's see here. I'm going to spend about 5 more minutes working on Denagre here, and then I'm going to take a quick break, clean my airbrush, and reset for moving on to the charger, the Signar charger, and creating true metallic metal effects with 2-brush blending on that one. So if you've got questions regarding this purple color or anything I've talked about so far tonight, make sure and post them up in chat. Otherwise, like I say here in about 5 minutes, take a quick break, and then I will be back on momentarily to work on the charger. That's just going to bother me with those eyes not looking finished like that, so I'm just going to completely cover them at this point. Talking about the face though, and just cleaning that up a little bit more, I am going to paint those lips right now. And I'm going to start with a fairly dark blue. I'm going to start with some coal black and see if that doesn't look too bad. For those of you that have caught some of my other paint casts, I talk a lot about creating harmony in a model by using colors, the same colors in different areas in different ways. And so what we'll try and highlight this with is the Signar blue highlight that we used to create some shadow in the flesh tone there. So when you're painting lips, the upper lip is always darker than the lower lip. You put your shadow on the lower lip, or excuse me, you put your highlight on the lower lip, and you keep your upper lip shaded. And then now with a little bit of a touch of the Signar blue base, and then I'm also going to add a touch of frostbite to it, giving this a fairly pale gray blue color. Not all that pale. And now we're going to paint the lower lip. going to take some more frostbite, add it even more into the base color. And now just at the center, the middle of her lower lip here, just add a small highlight. There you go. Okay, so take a look at the chat here before we finish up for this first segment tonight. No real questions. Justin TSB is asking, where can I find pricing to get a paint tutorial or paint ed? You can contact me directly, Justin, at redmodeling@gmail.com. Also, if you go onto my Facebook page, facebook.com/redmodelingpaint, if you click on the Notes tab, N-O-T-E-S, the Notes tab, that is just below my banner picture there of right next to my profile picture that says Notes. Click on that Notes tab, and there's information there on my pricing for my commission rates, my classes, my one-on-one classes that I do. There's information there about the PaintCast as far as general description and pricing goes. Then there's also an FAQ as well if you have any questions. So, or like I say, just email me directly at redmodeling@gmail.com. That's probably the best way to reach me. So, and I'd be happy to go through it with you and help you out with that. But in the meantime, guys, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, and I'm going to clean my airbrush out. And man, I like how that skin tone turned out. Sorry, distracted. Squirrel. I'm going to clean my airbrush out, and then I'm going to come back and work some more on the charger for JT and see where else we go to tonight. So hang tight, guys, and don't go anywhere, and I will be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks.